So, hello again, it's John back again. And what I want to do in this video is to just quickly look at exporting images from Lightroom into something which is suitable for the PDI, or the projected image competition. So this is the photo that we finished processing during my the Deepdale tutorial. And so what I want to do is I want to create a preset that I can use several times, to create images with the right resolution and the right file name, and so also I know where they've been put. We've got two ways to do this. We can either go to the file menu and choose export, or we can go to right click on here and choose export, and this brings us up into the same place. So I'm going to go to the export option, and what we have here is a set of sections where we can specify the different things. So we've got an export location, a file naming section, a section for file settings, image sizing, output sharpening, and so on. So what we're going to start off with is the export location. So in here we've got three options. We can either export to a specific folder, or we can choose the folder at a later time. So if I was going to create a preset that I could give to other people, then that might be useful because they may want to have their own folder structure for this. Or we can export it into the same folder as the original photo. The one I use is a specific folder. I certainly don't like to use that one. There's a danger that you can end up picking up the wrong image, and I don't distribute this preset, so I don't need to choose the folder later. Then we have the option here to choose a folder. So let's put a folder on my desktop. We've got one here already set up called Export Tutorial. So we'll select that folder. And so we can see in here, now that's where the folder is going to be put. So where the images are going to be put. I'm not going to put it into a subfolder, so I could actually get it to create a subfolder automatically while I was going to do that. If I chose same folder as original photo, I could then choose to add that photo to the catalogue. The catalogue is really just a database containing data about the image. What if I have a photo that already exists? Well, then I've got the option to ask what to do, to just automatically choose a new name for the exported file, to overwrite that file without warning, or to skip it. I prefer to be asked what I'm going to do, so I know that I've chosen to overwrite a file. I've chosen to create a new name for it. You don't get to choose what the name is. What it will do is it will create the file with the same name, but put a -2 at the end of it, or -3, and so on. Or I can just skip that file. So if I was going to export 20 images, I might choose to skip the ones that are already there. I really think that's a good idea because I can never remember which files I've skipped. Next thing is file naming. So we're going to create some settings for this. Now we can either use a custom name, so say Deepdale 1 of 2, or what have you, if I've got more than one image. We could use Deepdale and the original file number. So if the file number was something 001, then it would become Deepdale 001. We could choose a custom name and a sequence. So again, if I was exporting 5 images of the same location, it would be Deepdale 1, Deepdale 2, Deepdale 3, Deepdale 4. We can choose a custom name, and just a custom name, so I could create it with just Deepdale. We can then do it by date and the original file name, and a sequence number, or just the file name. Well, we're going to go with custom settings. I'm going to edit this. So what we've got here is creating this as a custom setting, and by default, well, not by default, but what I've got this set up from previously is we're going to have a sequence number, so 01, followed by my caption and then John Dobson. Well, I just really want it as, don't want the sequence number in, I just want it as caption, so it would appear as Deepdale by John Dobson. Now this is the format which is required for our projected image competition. I insert the caption by dropping down in the metadata area here, pull down this this drop down. I can then choose caption from it, and it will put insert caption into my text. So now I can just create this as Deepdale by John Dobson, which then is suitable for the projected image and meets the appropriate format. But there's a lot of things in here that you can choose. You don't have to go with caption, you could go with any of these things. So we click done on that. That's my file naming. I don't have any video with this, so we can skip over that one. File settings, well, I want this as a JPEG. We could also do PSD, TIFF or DNG, or to use original. I shoot all of my images as Canon RAW files, so I really want to export it as a Canon RAW file. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. So JPEG is the one I'm going to use for this. Make sure it's maximum quality, 100. And here is where we choose the color space. So Lightroom by default is operating in the ProPhoto RGB color space. That's the largest color space available to me. But we could export it in that color space. So if I was going to say export this as a PSD for somebody else to work on, then I might export it as ProPhoto RGB and set the image format to PSD. Or we could set Adobe RGB or sRGB. For the projected image competition, sRGB is the one to use. I'm not going to worry about limiting the file size. I never ever use that. Image sizing. So for the projected image competition, there's a maximum size that we can have for a portrait, sorry, for a landscape orientation photo, which is what this one is. So I'm going to, and that is 1400 by 1500, so I'm going to resize this to a specified width and height. I'm going to make sure that this checkbox is don't enlarge, because if my image is smaller, then I don't enlarge it to do that, because I could end up introducing some resizing artifacts which I don't want. So in here I just simply specify the size required for the competition, and it's that simple. Then specify the resolution. 300 pixels per inch is a suitably good number, and that's what I apply there. If I was going to do a portrait orientation photo, then I would just specify long edge and just specify 1050 in here, and that will make the longest edge 1050 pixels. But remember, if you choose that and you apply it to a landscape orientation photo, then it's only going to be 1050 pixels wide. But we'll create the landscape orientation one. Output sharpening, I'm going to sharpen this for screen with standard sharpening. You've also got the option in here to sharpen if you're going to output this image to send to somebody for printing, then you can sharpen it for matte or glossy paper. There are actually better ways of outputting for printing than using the exporting, though. We'll cover those in another tutorial at another time. And for sharpening, well, I just choose standard, but you can go low or high. I think that's something depending on how much sharpening you apply to your image will then determine whether you want to apply low standard or high sharpening when you output. We have metadata, so I will export all of the metadata I have in my photo except location info. Let's suppose I find this fantastic location that nobody has ever found before and I want to keep it to myself, and I'm actually recording geographic information within my metadata, then I'll want to remove that from my exported image so nobody else can find out where it is. I personally don't worry too much about that one way or the other, but that's the default it's set, so that's what I leave it at. We have the option of applying a watermark, so if I was going to export this image and put it onto the internet or to give to somebody else, then I might want to put a watermark on the image. So to do that, it's as simple as checking that checkbox, editing your watermark, and so you can choose an image or text. You can choose which font you want to use, and it's as simple as that. So I've gone with a text type watermark, and so I've just specified what the text is going to be down there. You can also choose an image if you have, say, your signature that you want to apply to the image. You can do that. What text you want to use, where you want to put it in the photo, whether you want to drop shadow or not, and so forth. So that's how you add a watermark to it. And then the last thing I want to look at is post-processing. So after we've exported, then what do I want to do after that? I can either do nothing, which will just continue with another application, another photo, or I can show it in, I'm using a Windows PC, so this will show it in Windows Explorer. If it's on the Mac, I believe that's called Finder. So once you've exported your image, it will automatically show Explorer and show me where my image has been exported to. So for those of you who forget where your images are going, that would be quite useful. We can open it up in Photoshop after exporting, or we can open it in another application such as your email client. You could put your email client in there and it would attach that photo to an email. The problem with Lightroom as it is at the moment is it can only do one image at a time to an email. So if you had 4 images you wanted to enter into the projected image competition, then you would end up sending 4 emails, and I'm not too sure how Lou would take that. And then you can then open up the export folder right now. So we'll just select show in Explorer. If we then click on add, this add button, we can add this as an export PDI preset. And so we can then select that preset, and why you okay, it's complaining about those, let's get rid of those. We can then export in here. Oh, I know why, it's because I had that selected. Sorry about this, shouldn't have had that selected. Okay, so we can then click on, keep clicking on it and I shouldn't do. Let's do add PCC landscape. So I'm going to create it as a PCC landscape export, and we can then click on export. So in that particular folder I've already got that image, it already exists. So now I'm being asked what I want to do. I'm just going to overwrite it and that image will appear. And if we then go back to the library module, and I can then go off and choose another photograph. Let's have a look, see what we can find. So let's go to let's go into there, 2004, 14. and I can go into here and I can choose another photograph. We'll click on that and I can then choose export, and then down here we will find our export PDI preset, PPC. Landscape export, which is the one I just created. That will export that image. I clearly haven't put a caption on this, but in a moment it will finish the export and it will open up the folder and we'll see that image is exported in there. Here it is. Because I don't have a caption on the photo, it hasn't actually done my renaming properly, but we can see in here, we go back to that one, that it's automatically created it of the right size. To add a caption, all we need to do is to go to the library module, and if I just added a caption in here with windmill and then exported it, it will come out with Windmill by John Dobson. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and we'll have another tutorial soon.